Until now, we have been talking about right triangles primarily. And in a right triangle, we can use SOHCAHTOA to find the length of a missing side or the measure of a missing angle. However, in chapter 5, we are going to talk about triangles that are not right triangles and still manage to find lengths of sides and measures of angles. So the first law we're going to be learning is something called the law of cosines. So law of cosines can be applied to right, acute, and oblique triangles when we know two sides in the included angle. The included angle means the angle that's between two sides. So for example, if I'm talking about side A and side B, then the included angle is going to be angle C because this is side A, this is side B. The angle in between those two sides is going to be angle C. That is what is called the included angle. So when we have two sides and the included angle, we can use the law of cosines. If we know all three sides of a triangle, we can also use the law of cosines. The law of cosine is a squared equals to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a, and we can use this for any of the sides of the triangle. So the square of any side can be written in terms of the other two sides and their included angle. Let's take a look at some examples. First example, we want to find the distance across a small lake. A surveyor has taken the measurements shown. So let's say that we can't cross the lake, yet we still want to know the distance across this lake here. So the surveyor can measure side AC, side BC, because those you're not required to cross the lake to do this, and then measure the angle in between, which is 33.5 degrees, and we need to find out what is going to be side C. Now, in general, opposite of angle A is always going to be side A, opposite of angle B is always going to be side B, and opposite of angle C is going to be side C. Because we're looking for side C, we're going to use this last formula, c squared equals to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times cosine of C. So our formula is c squared equals to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times the cosine of C. So let's plug this in. So we want to know what is c squared equal to. A is 2.42, so we have 2.42 squared. B is 3.12, so that's going to be 3.12 squared, minus 2 times A, which is 2.42, times B, which is 3.12, and then we have times the cosine of C, which is cosine of 33.5 degrees. Now you can put this all into a calculator just going left to right. Make sure you guys use appropriate parentheses as I've done. And when you do that, you're going to get 2.998 456,978. Now keep as many decimals as you can until the very last step. To get the C by itself, we are going to square root both sides. And if you square root 2.998 456,978, this is going to give us 1.732 miles. And remember, we do get a plus or minus when we square root a variable. However, we're not going to use the negative value because we're talking about a distance, so it is going to be positive 1.732 miles. A quick calculator tip. Instead of taking the square root, because then you have to type this whole thing again, when you have the 2.998456978 into your calculator, you can simply take that answer and then raise it to the power of 0.5. So put that little, whatever your exponent key is, and raise it to the power of 0.5, which is same thing as square rooting. Raising it to the power of 0.5 is same as square rooting. It'll just save you a little bit of time. Next, we want to find C. Given A is 2.31, B is 3.4, and angle C is 40.9 degrees. Also, notice that these are in degrees, so make sure that your calculator is in degree mode, not in radian mode, because our angles are in degrees now. So what I recommend is drawing the triangle and starting off with labeling the angles A, B, and C in corresponding sides are A, opposite of angle A is A, opposite of angle B is B, and opposite of angle C is C. So A is 2.31, B is 3.4, and angle C is 40.9 degrees. We want to find out what is the measure of side C. So again, we're going to use the formula C squared equals to A squared plus B squared. So it's a square of the other two sides minus 2AB times the cosine of their included angle, which is going to be, in this case, angle C. Notice that angle C is included between A and B. Okay, so we're going to have C squared equals to A, which is 2.31 squared, minus B, which is 3.4 squared, minus 2 times 2.31 times 3.4 times the cosine of 40.9 degrees. Put this all into a calculator, which again, you can do just going left to right. Make sure that you use parentheses for this. And we're going to get C squared equals to 5.023153706. Now, I recommend you do this on your own to make sure we're getting the same answer. And then we square root C, so we're going to get C equals to plus or minus, although we only take the positive, 2.241. And this is in miles, so we have to make sure we include units, which are going to be miles. Let me make sure I included units on the last one. I did. Okay, perfect. Again, calculator tip. Instead of doing a square root, once you have that 5.023153706 in your calculator, you can just put your exponent key, whatever your exponent key is, and then raise it to the 0.5 power, which is same thing as square rooting. Next, a parallelogram has sides of 9 centimeters and 8 centimeters, and one angle is 37 degrees. What is the length of the smaller diagonal, and what is the length of the longer diagonal? So first off, let me draw the parallelogram. We have one side is 9 centimeters, so let's call this side 9 centimeters. So in a parallelogram, opposite sides are equal, so this is also 9, and then the other side is 8 centimeters. So first we want to know the length of the smaller diagonal, which is going to be this one here. Okay, now here what we know is that an angle, so this angle is going to be 37 degrees. How do I know it's this angle? This one is obtuse, this one's more than 90, this one is less than 90, so this has to be 37 degrees. So if I call this C, then I'm going to say C squared, which is missing, equals to A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times the cosine of 37 degrees. Now you can pause the video and put this all into a calculator, and this will give you 29.996,48655. This is 29.996,48655. If I square root that to get the C by itself, I get a plus or minus, but C represents distance, so C is going to be positive 5.477 centimeters. So that takes care of the smaller diagonal. Now the more difficult problem is, how do you find the longer diagonal? So once again, I'm going to draw my parallelogram. This is 8 centimeters, so opposite is also 8. This is 9, so opposite is also 9. Now the longer diagonal is, and let me actually redraw this a little bit, because 8 and 9 are more close to each other, so I shouldn't draw it so far apart. Got 9, 9, 8, 8. All right, so the shorter diagonal was the one going this way, but the longer one is going to be the one going this way. The longer diagonal is going to be opposite that obtuse angle. Obtuse angles are any angles that are more than 90 degrees. So here's the problem. We knew that this angle is 37, but how do we find the measure of this angle? We're going to call that angle x. Well, here's what we know. The angles of a parallelogram add to 360. Okay, so we're going to say that, so we know that the angles add up to 360. We know that this angle is 37 degrees, and we know that this angle is 37 degrees. So this angle here is 37 degrees, and this angle here is 37 degrees. Now, if this is x, then this angle also has to be x. So what we can say is that 360 is equal to 37 degrees plus 37 degrees plus x plus x. And if I combine my like terms, then I have 360 equals to 37 plus 37, which is going to be 74 plus 2x. Then I have to solve this equation. So I subtract 74 from both sides. I have 360 minus 74. This gives me 286 degrees equals to 2x. And if I divide both sides by 2, then x is going to equal to 143 degrees. So that's the measure of the included angle. Now we can apply the formula. So we're going to say that the diagonal is c. So we have c squared is equal to a squared, which is, now a and b don't matter because we're adding them anyway, plus 9 squared minus 2 times 8 times 9 times the cosine of 143 degrees. Okay, so we're going to get c squared is equal to 260.0035134. And then if I square root that, I'm going to get c is equal to 16.125 centimeters. And make sure you get in the habit of writing units with anything that has units. All right, this next problem, it says a pilot flies a straight path for an hour and 30 minutes, and then she makes a course correction heading 10 degrees to the right of her original course and flies 2 hours in the new direction. If she maintains a constant speed of 620 miles per hour, how far is she from her starting position? So the first thing we need to do is we need to make a diagram for this. So pilot flies in a straight path for an hour and 30 minutes, and then she makes a course correction of 10 degrees. So imagine the pilot's going this way, and then the pilot turns 10 degrees. So when that pilot turns 10 degrees, what it means is that this angle here, the angle of turning, is going to be 10 degrees. And then the pilot flies for another 2 hours and ends up here. The question is, how far is the pilot from the original starting point? So we want to know this distance, which we'll call c. All right, now if you want to know the angle c, we need to know, we want to know the length of c, we need to know side A, we need to know side B, and we need to know the included angle. So let's talk about side A first. So for side A, we know that this pilot is going at a speed of 620 miles per hour. So 620 miles per hour. And she flies for an hour and 30 minutes, which is 1.5 hours. So if I multiply 620 by 1.5, this is going to give me 930 miles. That's going to be the length of side A. Now for side B, this pilot is traveling for 2 hours, and she's traveling at a speed of 620 miles an hour. So this pilot is going 620 miles per hour, and she travels for 2 hours. So the distance traveled here is 620 times 2, which is going to be 1,240 miles. So now we have our two distances. As far as the angle goes, we know that any straight line is 180. So to find the measure of this angle, we're going to take 180 minus 10 degrees, and that'll be 170 degrees. So if this is 10, this has to be 170, because 170 plus 10, they have to add up to the straight line, which is going to be 180. So now we have our two sides and an included angle. So we can apply the law of cosines to solve this problem. So we have c squared is equal to a squared. And again, it doesn't matter what you call a and what you call b. So I'm going to have a is 930, so 930 squared, plus b squared, which is 1240 squared, minus 2 times 930 times 1240 times the cosine of 170 degrees. You can pause the video and put this into your calculator, and this is going to give you 467.3860.602 miles. If you square root both sides or use that calculator tip, raise it to the power of 1.5, we're going to get c equals to 2161.911 miles. And then this last example we will do in class.